Get in the game with NFL Sunday Ticket from Rev TV. You'll get every game every Sunday afternoon in crystal clear HD. That's over 220 football games for the entire regular season. Plus, NFL Sunday Ticket gives you up to 8 live games on one screen with Game Mix. You'll get that died and woke up in football heaven experience when you include NFL Red Zone, a channel dedicated to every scoring play from every game and all your fantasy football teams. Get in the game with NFL Sunday Ticket. Call 601-8992 today.
Bahamar placed into receivership. Find out what this means for the future of the troubled resort. The F&M defends its record on crime. Police prevented from shutting down a web shop. Plus, Hurricane Joaquin damage now pegged at $80 million. You've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Kyle Joaquin, and NB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to NB12. Bahamar has been placed into receivership, and though representatives of stakeholders say they are unsure where this leaves developer Sarkis Merlian, at this point their next immediate step is to meet with provisional liquidators to discuss the way forward. Simone Davis reports.
The court today granted a request by the Export-Import Bank of China to move Bahamar into receivership. Professionals from Deloitte & Touche were appointed to oversee the process. Deloitte & Touche managing partner Raymond Winder said it remains unclear where this leaves Bahamar developer Sarkis Merlian. However, he said after meeting with provisional liquidators today, they hope to figure out what their next step should be.
The one thing that I will be doing is meeting with the JPLs. That's the most important thing. They've been involved now for how long? 2 months? No. How long? Since August? Well, that's a lot of ground they've covered. And so they have a whole lot of different things to tell me.
Winder also explained exactly what receivership means for Bahamar.
Receivership means basically a continuation of the process that was initially started by the joint provisional liquidator. The only difference is that Ex-Im Bank itself now has decided to take steps based on the powers that are in the mortgage agreement. But in terms of results, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, is basically the same steps. Want to get the resort open.
He noted that it is in no one's interest for Bahamar to be stalled. This development comes nearly 2 months after joint provisional liquidators were appointed. Managing Director of KRYS Global, one of the joint provisional liquidators, Edmund Ramming, explained that now that the court has granted the bank leave to appoint receivers, KRYS Global Bahamas and Alex Partners plan to work closely with receivers in order to see that resort completed and open for business.
The bank has sought leave to appoint receivers, and that has actually happened. The court has granted them leave to appoint receivers as of today.
What does that mean for Bahamar?
At this time, we're not sure. We're going to sit down with the receivers and try to come up with a protocol as to how we work together moving forward to come up with the best strategic option to get the project open as quickly as possible.
However, attorney Roy Sweeting, who represents Bahamar, had very little to say on the matter, except that they are now shifting gears.
We won't make any comment at this time. Shift now. There's nothing. There's nothing really useful for us to say. This is shifting the deck chairs around on the Titanic more than anything else.
Last week, more than 2,000 Bahamar workers were laid off. Prime Minister Perry Christie said on Saturday that he remained optimistic that the crisis will soon be resolved. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
Well, despite reports circulating that embattled Bahamar CEO Sarkis Merlian may have upped his attempts to prevent a full-term liquidation, Guardian Business has learned that no new offers have been made. It was reported yesterday that Merlian had offered additional investments, including short-term funding, while asking for collateral and a senior ranking among other creditors to protect his additional investment. Sources close to the matter say this is a reiteration of an offer made previously during the closed-door meetings when Ismailian said he had a plan to fund up to $80 million. Ismailian is fighting to prevent liquidation of the Bahamar assets by the joint provisional liquidators appointed by the Bahamas Supreme Court. Those liquidators have convened negotiations, including the Port-Import Bank of China, China XM, China Construction America, the government of the Bahamas, and Bahamar. Meanwhile, even as talks continue behind closed doors over the fate of the shuttered $3.5 billion project on Cable Beach, two of the brands involved are said to be looking at mergers that could conceivably see old partners of the project return to the fold in some way. SBE Entertainment or SLS Lux is in talks with Morgan's Hotel Group, and Hyatt Hotels Corporation is reportedly in talks with Starwood Hotels and resorts worldwide. Free National Movement Senator Carl Bethel is firing back at Minister of State for National Security Keith Bell, who asserted the F&M government failed to try gang cases, leaving 8,000 for the Christie administration to try. However, Bethel called Bell's comments infantile, insisting it all started with the Pindling administration. Vonnie Toot reports.
Former Attorney General Carl Bethel has dismissed Keith Bell's assertion that the Ingram administration's inaction towards gangs is responsible for the high level of crime occurring today. Bethel says Bell needs to grow up and stop dealing with the country's crime problem in a silly, childish, and infantile manner. He said if Bell really wants to point the finger when it comes to gang violence, why not start with the Pindling administration?
The government, of which Keith Bell is a part, is failing miserably in the struggle against crime. The question is not how we got here, it's how we're going to get out of where we are. And in answering that question, the government and Keith Bell have no answers. And so he has appointed himself to be the finger pointer in chief.
During his contribution to the Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill on Monday, Bell said more criminal gangs developed between 2007 and 2012 under the F&M than at any other point in the country's history. He also asserted that the last F&M administration failed to bring gang cases before the courts, and as a result, the Christie administration has 8,000 cases from the former government to try. However, Bethel says it's common for one to ascribe blame to deflect from their incompetence.
Are we going to start to go through this silly thing of posting up billboards saying 390 murders under you, and now we're going to say 399 murders under them? Is that how what we reduced to in this country? That's a silly and childish and infantile way to address serious problems. Okay, Senator Bell needs to grow up, buckle down, and do his job.
124 people have been murdered in the Bahamas so far this year. The 2015 murder count has already surpassed last year's, which was 123. National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage said about 60% of murders are the result of retaliation between rival gang members. Bethel says if the state minister for national security wants to find out the real root of gang violence, he should read the Commission of Inquiry report.
These gangs are fighting over turf in drug wars, and it's hit and retribution and hit. That's really what the police indicate is going on the streets in the Bahamas today. What is the root of that? You only need to read the Commission of Inquiry report to see how the failures and or negligence and or complicity of the first Pindling government in the late 1970s and mid-1980s, right up until the time of the Commission of Inquiry report, led to the creation of a drug gang culture in the Bahamas.
The F&M senator says the opposition has made very good suggestions on how to tackle crime, but government officials are too busy pointing fingers to listen. He says the Christie administration can start by doing something with its ineffective anti-gang legislation.
When a government passes a law that is ineffective and does nothing about it to make it effective, then obviously they're just engaged in a public relations exercise. And I well remember certain comments of the Prime Minister about how this law would be so effective. Well, it's not effective. so it has to be rethought.
The penal code was amended last year in an effort to eradicate gangs. However, no one has yet been convicted under that law.
Bethel says it's time to stop playing the blame game, come together, and find real solutions to crime. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonnie Tude.
Bet Vegas, the web shop whose gaming license application was rejected by the gaming board, has obtained a court order preventing police from shutting it down. Despite being ordered to shut its doors, the web shop filed an order against the Attorney General, the Commissioner of Police, and the Minister of Tourism to keep its doors open, while the Bahamas Christian Council President Ranford Patterson weighed in today.
I don't believe that this is the end of the fight, the struggle that the government will have as it relates to the web shop. I think this is going to continue and continue and continue. My prayer is that it don't get violent, but I believe it's not over. The fight is not over.
Bet Vegas was one of 9 gaming houses that applied for a license. And when the list of approved license applications were released earlier this month, Bet Vegas was not there. Instead, the web shop was rejected in order to close its doors. But State Minister for National Security Keith Bell confirmed that the web shop got a court order preventing police from shutting it down. After spearheading an extensive campaign against the regulation of web shops to now seeing license applications being accepted and police blocked from closing one down, Christian Council President Reverend Dr. Ranford Patterson suggested that this is just the beginning of a much bigger battle.
No one wants to give up. Once you've tasted the sweet life, no one's going to give it up. And I think that's the challenge the government is faced today. The web shop that was asked to close, they have experienced what it is to have monies and to give that up. I foresee that being a challenge.
Patterson said the church has done its part when it comes to web shops, but he has one genuine concern.
This activity, I believe, lends itself to greed, and as a result of greed, persons become territorial, and as a result of becoming territorial, then persons will do everything in their power to protect their turf. And my prayer is that we do not experience violence in our country as a result of what's happening. That's my honest to God prayer.
And he said when it comes to the law and police being prevented from doing their job, it's been going on for too long now.
The laws of our country has been too lax in everything. You know, we have allowed too many small stuff to be overlooked in our country. And so the big stuff get, I guess, under the carpet because the small stuff is never touched. And I keep saying this, until we tackle the small, what everybody call insignificant stuff in our country, we'll continue to have the major problems that we have.